So the first variable type we want to talk about here are contextual variables. And the reason they're called contextual variables is because they only work within the context of the screen that you're in. But let's go look at how we create those, how we work with those, and then we'll make it make sense. So let's do another new screen, right? This is going to be the app of how many screens can we create. We're up to 4. I think we can get 7 or 8. Who knows? There should be an over-under on that probably. So with a screen 4, what I want to do is I'm going to stick a button on the screen. So we're going to say insert a button. And so with my button, big button apparently, what we're going to do is we're going to say, when you press that button, I want to create a variable called counter. So I'm going to say update context. Right? And we kind of explored this concept earlier with the sort, right, in the very first videos. So we're going to say update context. We're going to create a variable named counter. All you have to do is put in a name here, and that'll automatically make it a variable. So don't think you have to declare this or anything else. The first time you use it like this, it's going to do it. Then you're going to use a colon. And so the colon is how, in a contextual variable, you say equals. So right, instead of an equal sign like you were probably thinking I was going to type, you're going to do a colon. So counter equals, and then on this other side here, we'll just do a 1 to start. So we'll do a curly brace, a parenthesis. So that's going to create a variable named counter, set its value to 1. Now, keep in mind with these variable names, try not to use names that might be something Power App has, right? So don't use count, because count is a function. So I use counter because that's not a function that Power Apps uses, to avoid that confusion like we showed in the previous videos. So then we'll throw a label on here, right? Notice in my life there's a lot of labels. I use labels for everything. And so we're going to say counter is, and there's counter. Nope, see, that's why I didn't use count, because count is a function. Counter, there you go. So right now, counter is nothing, right? So if we hit play, button, if we click on the button, counter is 1. If I click the button again, counter just stays 1, right? Because all we're doing is setting that variable to 1 over and over and over again, okay? Well, what if I actually wanted to count? Glad you asked. You probably didn't ask. You probably really annoyed me saying, I'm glad you asked, when you didn't really ask anything. So if we go over here to, oh, we don't mean to add a button back. We click here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to say, all right, well, counter, I want you to equal counter. So I want you to equal yourself. Notice variables and everything in Power Apps is case sensitive. So we're going to say counter equals counter plus 1. So the first time we click the button, we're going to get a 1, right? Because counter right now equals 0. So we click the button once, we get 1. But then as we click it, we got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I won't count for you because you don't need to hear me count. But you get the idea. We've now created a button that is a counter. So you're probably not going to really create a button that's a counter, but maybe you need to count the number of times they enter input, and if they get it wrong 3 times, you want to kick them off the screen or make them go somewhere else, right? These are the type of things that you need to think about. And so a lot of times what you'll see in some of the things, I think in one of the formulas we'll show you later, maybe, we will go in here and we'll say, like, we're going to update this counter variable, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to take our action, right? Write our data or something like that. And so we're using the counter variables to in that fashion. So the thing that I also want to point out, though, so if we go over here, let's make another new screen. Go another blank screen. So on screen 5, let's have a label. And if we go right here to text and we type in count, well, it's not auto-suggesting. Why not? That's okay. That's how we spelled it. Why doesn't that work? Why am I getting this yellow? Because counter has no value. Counter is a contextual variable, and this is the important thing to understand about them. It's only good on the screen that I created it on. So over here on screen 4, counter has a value all day. It's 8 right now. Over here, counter doesn't. I could reuse that variable, right? Because contextual variables are just scoped to where they're at. So a lot of times what we use those for are things like counters here, when we want to do some type of, making sure we're keeping track of what people are doing, what they're clicking, that type of stuff. The other reason you might use a counter, or not a counter, a contextual variable is for pop-ups and things like that. So we'll see in a little bit later, maybe in one of the videos, we're going to do a pop-up, and when the pop-up shows up, we use a contextual variable, so that way we keep the settings just right there on that page, and we have multiple pop-ups throughout our app. So, all right, that covers contextual variables. The next video, we'll talk about global variables.